Russell Westbrook overrated as I don't know what, Nelson. And I'm gonna tell you something. I really don't care nothing. I don't care about nothing you have to say about it, because that's it. We could actually move on to the next topic right now if you wanted to, but that's it.
So let's talk about your rating for Russell Westbrook. Earlier in the year, you had Russell Westbrook, I believe, third on your top 5 point guards list.
I did.
And in your most recent video, you put him as sixth.
I did.
So moving down 3 places in a
Yes,
talented point guard group is overrated as hell.
it is.
See, this what's wrong with you.
No,
This is
no,
this
no.
your
This is
problem
what's
right
wrong
here.
with you,
This
because
your
we're
problem right
about to
here.
go back down the street of the Russell Westbrook Defense Committee with
I
you.
told you I retired. I told y'all I retired the defense committee after he averaged a triple double for a whole season. I told
Yeah,
y'all why the
and I
defense
think
committee
that's the
erected.
problem. I
I
think
told
that's
y'all
the
why.
problem.
Hold on, let me
I think
me
that's the
understand.
problem, though.
Because the people have a misunderstanding. I never, when we did our point guard rankings, we put Russell Westbrook in the same place. If I was on the defense committee, you would think I would have him higher than you did.
No, I mean,
And
because you
that's
know
not the
not to
case.
go completely Looney Tunes. You never
No.
go full Looney Tune.
So here's the
Robert
thing.
Downey Jr. taught you that. You never do that.
I see. That's not the word you want to use, but we'll rock with it. The family show. Here's the thing. Um, these guys are close in talent once you get behind James Harden. Russ, Dame, Kyrie, I'll throw Kemba in there. That group of guys. And back when John Wall was playing his best, he was in that group. And depending on how they play, that's where you rate them. Before this year, last thing Damian Lillard did was get swept by a Pelicans team that nobody expected to do anything, right? And they lost Boogie Cousins, still swept them. He got locked up by Drew Holiday and Rajon Rondo. So he was rated lower, although we acknowledged he's extremely talented, really good. Russell Westbrook is coming off of a horrible shooting year, which we talked about on this show
A
the
whole
entire
year.
time.
A whole year.
Well, his shooting ticked up at the All Star break. But as we said on this show, Paul George's injury and losing Abrinas severely hurt the Thunder. The Thunder did not have shooting to spare. We called this before the series. This is why my series prediction was it depends on Paul George's shoulders. I expected the Thunder to lose if Paul George wouldn't do anything. What he say? Game one, he shot terrible. I haven't shot the ball in 4 days, so I couldn't lift my arms. So you know what my prediction was based off of that. While I give Russell Westbrook plenty of blame, and the thing is, you say he's overrated. Everybody's killing him. Everybody's killing him. You got every play. De'Aaron Fox is better than Russell Westbrook right now, according to everybody. So he's not overrated because nobody's rating him high.
No, I didn't say that. I never said that.
I'm saying you said D'Angelo Russell,
I did.
right? So and D'Angelo Russell, and listen, I'm from Brooklyn. I've loved nothing more than to D'Angelo Russell from now on be much better than Russell Westbrook ever was and ever will be. As it is, that's not currently the case. Russell Westbrook had a down shooting year. Um, just like Dame Lillard, if he comes back and has a better year next year, if he learns from it, we'll change our opinions. And that's what happens when you're close in talent. Those who perform get moved up, those who don't get moved down. To say Russell is overrated while everyone is killing him, talking about his legacy, he's trash, he can't shoot, he needs to be moved to shooting guard, everybody's saying that. So how's he overrated?
Well, all right. Now I will rebut. He's overrated because if you, we're not talking about, when I say he's overrated, I'm not talking about what the last 5 things that somebody just wrote about Russell Westbrook is. I'm talking about an overall evaluation of Russell Westbrook's career, where he sits among the top players of his era, all of those things. If you ask most people, what do they think of Russell Westbrook as a player, as a superstar, and you get them outside of this moment, right? And you get them talking about him during this season. You get them talking about him before this season. All of those different things. Most people hold Russell Westbrook in extremely high regard. Not only would they say he's a top 5 point guard, I think many people would say or would have said that he is a top 5 player in the NBA, right?
I don't agree with that.
I cannot, I 100% believe that, especially before this season, if you ask people who are the top 5 players
The
in the
top 5
NBA,
players going into the season were Giannis, Kawhi, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Steph Curry. Those were the top players in the league.
that was like 6, but I think that
Yeah, and I'm
I
saying
think
because some people had one and some people had the other. So some people had Giannis ahead of Anthony Davis, some people had Anthony Davis ahead of Giannis. But overall, those 6 took up the top 5. Russell Westbrook was not above those 6 on any credible person's list.
that I strongly disagree with that, and
Cool.
I know that that's not the case. And the definition of credible is relative. That I could bring up somebody and you could say, oh, that person's not credible. So that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is, if you talk to people and you ask people and you read these different talent evaluators, or you read different takes from across the NBA community, which is a vast community, many people would say that he was a top 5 player. How can you say nobody would say he's a top 5 player and he's a
Well,
year
I'm
removed?
saying
Hold on. 20-second timeout. 20 seconds. How can you say that that nobody would say he's a top 5 player and he's a year removed from an MVP? And nobody's saying it?
well, there was a
Nobody's
name.
saying it?
There was a name that I didn't put on that list as top 5, and that was James Harden, and he just won the MVP. And you didn't blink when I put that list up, because it was going into this season. James Harden had just won the MVP. It was that he had an MVP performance for the season, but no one had him as a top 5 player because they didn't believe that once you were in the postseason, he was one of the best 5 people you would want on your team from the top players in the league. That was not believed about James Harden by most people, because if you look at the rest of that squad, with the exception of Steph Curry, everybody else is a two-way player who's bigger than James. And James hadn't killed anybody in the playoffs yet. And what you do in the playoffs is your reputation. Just like right now with Russell Westbrook. He had a bad playoff performance. Now he's taking a big hit, and he deserves it. But at the same time, I'm not going to define a guy's entire career based off of his last playoff performance, particularly when he's only 30 years old. He's got a lot of career left ahead of him. And I like to actually cite his quote recently from the press conference he did.
I'm glad you brought that up, because
Can I do the quote?
that's
Can I
leading
do the
into
quote?
my next point.
Can I do the quote?
I don't know if you can do the same quote that I have, because I actually took this quote out because I really wanted to make reference to this one.
Well, let me finish. Let me finish, and then you could play off it. So what he said was, people when you do a lot of things well, people are always going to say something. Before, it was he's a ball hog, he doesn't pass. And then I lead the league in assists for 3 years or however long it is right now. And now they're on the shooting thing. I'm going to come back as a better shooter next year. Quick note on the Russell Westbrook Defense Committee. When people were dogging him, he wasn't averaging 10 assists a game. What I was saying was, every year his assists are going up. You guys are burying him as a young player, but if I look at him compared to all the other young players, this is undeserved because he's apparently improving at this. And he did improve at it. And while I don't think he is as good of a passer as other 10 assist players are, I also think it's an exaggeration to say he just dribbles the ball and passes at the last second. That's not true. He makes some brilliant passes. He's excellent in the pick and roll, and he sets up some of his guys for the most wide open 3-point shots you could find. On the shooting end, he, even in his stubborn projection in the media, he acknowledged he's not a good shooter, and he said he's going to work on it. Now, if he comes back next year and his shooting is worse or the same, then we kill him again. If his shooting is better, then we reevaluate him. So this overrated thing is an oversimplification. It's silliness. How did he play this year in the playoffs? He didn't play well. Dame deserves to be ahead of him because Dame outplayed him. It's that simple.
No one would have put Dame ahead of him to start the season. Nobody would have done that. So what that says is that at some point, there was a perception or a thought that he was better than Dame.
No, what that says is Dame was being punished for getting swept, because before the playoffs started, Dame was averaging 35 points a game going into the playoffs.
It's more than that. What it is what makes Russell Westbrook overrated is the thought that he is a piece that can be used on a championship level team as a point guard. That is what makes him overrated, because that is a thought that many people have. Not There's people who don't believe it. There's obviously people that don't believe it. I'm a person that doesn't believe it. But there are still people who believe that Russell Westbrook can be the point guard for a championship team. That's where he is thought of. And because that thought still exists in a good number of people, that is what makes him overrated. And I'm going to share a quote with you. And this is something that you gotta really take a note of. And this is an intangible where Russell Westbrook is looked at or seen as a person who's this headstrong. He's a dog. He's a monster. He goes out and he plays so hard and he plays with this thing. But what really is the case is Russell Westbrook is selfish, self-absorbed, stubborn, and uncoachable. That is the problem. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Look at this. I hope y'all can see it. And I highlighted the amount of I statements in his quote. If you want to determine my career by what I've done over 2-3 games, you go ahead. That don't mean S to me. It doesn't. I'm going to wake up like I told you before. 3 beautiful kids. I'm going to wake up and smile, be happy, enjoy my life. Doesn't change anything about that, about if I'm playing bad or who's better, who's not. I know who I am as a person, and that's the biggest thing I can say about myself. I know who I am. I know what I'm able to do. I know my capabilities. I know what I've done. I know what I can and can't do. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with who I am. I'll just be blessed to wake up every day and enjoy my life. To talk about, I don't even know what talk you're talking about. But whatever it is, you guys can keep talking about it, and I'm going to keep living my life. That is the ultimate. Get off me. I'm so tired of everybody talking about me. Yeah, I took 777 shots and it didn't matter. And I'm shooting 0.2% from the 3-point line and 0.1% from the free throw line. Get off me. Get off me. I make a lot of mean faces. I was talking about rock the baby to sleep, but Damian Lillard bust my behind for 5 games. You're not a winner. You're not a winner. You're not a winner. And that's what makes you overrated, because there are people who believe that you are. You're not a winner.
Are you done?
I think I dropped the mic already.
No, that was a silly performance, taking the guy's paragraph, and coming up with some armchair psychology nonsense about him. I'm talking basketball here. And on basketball, can I finish? 20 seconds timeout? 20 seconds timeout? 20 seconds timeout?
Basketball is mental.
What I said about OKC, and this is on Sam Presti. We compare Russell Westbrook to a smaller version of Giannis in the sense of the way he goes to the basket, the athleticism, and so on and so forth. Giannis is surrounded by a bunch of shooters. I've been saying this since Kevin Durant was still on the team. And the problem is exactly the same with Paul George there. If you are trying to build a team with Russell Westbrook as one of your main pieces, you should surround him with shooting. And watching Oklahoma City miss so many wide open, easy 3-pointers is an eyesore. And some of those 3-pointers are generated by Russell Westbrook. So I'm not going to take the blame off of the team construction. When you have an injured Paul George, by the way, Steven Adams, Jerrion Grant, and you giving minutes to Raymond Felton, I'm like, no, that team's not winning the championship. That's not an expectation I have. There's an ideal version of a team that should be surrounded by Russell Westbrook, that should surround Russell Westbrook. You look at James Harden's team, bunch of defenders and 3-point shooters. You look at Giannis's team, bunch of the defenders and 3-point shooters. Golden State, bunch of defenders and 3-point shooters. Oklahoma City, bunch of athletes nobody can shoot. I'm not going to ignore that piece of evidence, and particularly when you actually watch the games and you watch them play. Now, that doesn't mean that Russell Westbrook gets excused for his flaws. He acknowledged he's a bad shooter. It's plainly obvious he's a bad shooter. He had a down year, particularly because there are good shots that he used to have that he came in without this year. His pull-up from the free throw line used to be deadly, and it was just not even a great shot this year.
How about the free throw line when nobody's guarding him? How about that? How about that shot?
I mean, again, you're being silly.
How am I being what? What are you talking about?
Because that was a deadly. Because that was a deadly weapon for him.
Shoot free throws. Nobody's guarding you, right? The fact that he makes 64% of them, so that's silly. You're right, it's silly. I think it's silly that you're not making free throws.
Again, we already killed him for the free throws on this show. And even on the free throw content, what was he, 6 for 6 in game
And you
one?
know what? Here is where here is where you are contradicting yourself. You kill Ben Simmons for not making free throws, but you dismiss Russell Westbrook for not
because
making.
Russell
And they're
Westbrook,
similar style players. Only thing is one guy's bigger.
first of all, you also kill Ben Simmons. And the thing about
Absolutely the same way I'm killing Russell Westbrook.
the difference being Russell Westbrook is a career. He'd been in the 80s for his entire career. So when he was shooting, I mean, terrible from the free throw line early in the year, and he shot 10% below last year, which I brought up first before anybody was talking about it. I'm like, this is alarming. He's got to fix it. I looked at him in the second half of the season, and his free throws started to tick back up. I don't know what's going on with the free throws, but it's a one-year thing. I'm not going to say he's going to be like that forever. I need to see more body of work, more body of evidence, particularly because in the first half of the season, he was terrible. And in the second half of the season, he was inconsistent, which is different from terrible. Now, if you surround him with shooters.
From the free throw line,
let me finish, please.
Inconsistent?
Yes. Yeah.
That's not true.
He had a lot of.
Incorrect. That's incorrect.
He had a lot of 2 for 5 games, and then he had a lot of 3 for 5, 4 for 5, 5 for 5 games. The alarming thing was he's not going to the line as much. He needs to get his attempts back up. But my thing is this: if you surround him with shooters and space the floor, then the onus is on him to get to the basket because there's space. And you either get a foul or get somebody a three-point shooter. The team isn't even built like that. Oklahoma City, he goes to the basket. Everybody else in a teal jersey standing in the paint with him. So the team is constructed very poorly for a championship run, a playoff run. They need better shooting. Again, doesn't take the blame off of Westbrook. I'm giving him the blame. He has to improve. I don't know how many times I got to say that. No, but I'm not going to – when a guy has shot over 80% for most of his career, I'm willing to say, hey, you started out with knee surgery. You just had twins. Maybe something's going on. Let's see another year.
Now we talking about babies and surgery. Now we talking about – and I'm silly? And we talking about babies and surgery?
Well, the reports out of Oklahoma City are
you can bring up babies and surgery, but I can't bring up.
Well, I definitely bring up knee surgery. Absolutely. When you skip training camp in your off season, sometimes that throws guys' games off significantly. So when somebody comes back from knee surgery, I think that's relevant. So because it's relevant to say, are you ending the season healthy? Okay, let's see what your training camp is like. That's valid. Now, when it comes to the babies thing, the word out of Oklahoma City is that something about his routine is off. I don't know what that is, but he's a very routine, control-oriented player, and that it's messing up his game, and that he's switching something up. Now, the thing is, when I look at his numbers in the second half of the season, I see, okay, in the first half, you were consistently absolutely terrible. In the second half, I'm starting to see some games where you shoot really well. I'm starting to see some games where you shoot really well from the free throw line. So let me see which is the trend. Are you going to be the guy you were in the beginning of the season last year? Are you going to be inconsistent? Or are you going to work on it and come back better next year? That's all I'm saying.
That is a big bag of doo-doo is what that is. A big heaping pot of it. You are getting so many excuses for this guy, and you are affording him so many excuses that you do not afford every player. You will kill a guy in 5 seconds all the other times. But now we're talking about, oh, well, he had knee surgery. Then he had 2 twins. And, one of the baby's name is Unique, and the other one's name is Monique. And then he got to buy both twins matching pair of shoes. And then, oh, you got to remember something's wrong with his routine because, his car don't start on Wednesdays. Man, every single player in the NBA has to deal with family and life situations. And when their play suffers, people are going to criticize them. People are going to say,
I've been critical of Westbrook. Well. Like, the thing is, there's not a single criticism of Westbrook that I've argued.
No one cares. All I know is that it doesn't matter why you're overrated. It doesn't matter why you're.
It matters when you're an 80% or above free throw shooter for years on end, and you have a bad year, you get the benefit of the doubt. When you can't shoot at all, you get looked at differently because it's a skill you have to acquire, not reacquire.
And you just said that Milwaukee, you painted Milwaukee as this vastly better three-point shooting team than Oklahoma City. And that's not correct. It's not. Oklahoma City shot 34.8% from the three as a team. Milwaukee shot 35.3%. We're talking about a 0.5% better, but you're painting them as if they are the 2015.
You always go to percentages, and honestly, percentages.
Numbers
you
because the
you
numbers
went to
don't
percentages
lie.
to try to make the argument.
The numbers are impervious to the Nelsonary, because the Nelsonary is going to paint whatever picture it wants to paint.
This is a consistent argument.
Lie.
This is a consistent argument because the issue, and here's the thing. What did I say? I said with Abrinas and Paul George going down, they lose the amount of shooters. And the thing is, I said the same thing about Philadelphia last year. They need more shooters. People said they have JJ Redick. Yeah, but what happens when he sits down? You go through this stretch. I said the same thing about Paul George. The problem with Paul George, it's not just about him getting his numbers. He has to specifically be able to shoot the three, and they need Abrinas out there so that when he's on the floor, he has this legitimate second unit. He can be inefficient, and what happens is they go through this long stretch where nobody scores, and that's not good enough because no lead is safe, and you never get a big lead. Milwaukee, first of all, phenomenal defensive team, phenomenal offensive team, but everybody on the roster except Giannis could hit the three, and even Giannis is at almost 30%. Everybody on the roster can hit the three. Oklahoma City, you have guys who literally cannot shoot the three, several of them on the court at the same time. Or if they can hit the three, they can't do anything else.
So you keep changing the criteria for what it is.
I've been talking about 3-and-D this entire time, Brian.
So now, first Milwaukee was a vastly better shooting team than
they are.
City. Now it's not really that they're a better shooting team. It's only dependent on these guys and this.
No, having great depth at the shooting is part of being a great shooting team. The fact that Brogdon could be cold and Bledsoe could be hot, or the fact that Brogdon and Bledsoe could be shooting real bad. And
so what's a good what's a 3-point percentage where you say, well, this guy's a good 3-point shooter?
I'm just looking at the shooters, man. I'm looking at the shooters that they have. I'm talking specific.
You don't want to go. I'm not
talking general
because if we go to the numbers, it'll disprove what you're saying.
No, I'm not generalizing because we're talking about specifically two teams. If you want to go down the line of the Milwaukee Bucks and say, is Brook Lopez a better shooter than Steven Adams? By far. Is the threat of Brook Lopez making the floor spacing? Can I finish, please?
Position.
Yeah, it's the center position.
You haven't let me finish one point
It's the center position.
Of the show.
And if you are such a big fan of the 2K League, you know when the center could shoot, you get to play 5 out, right? And 5 out is a spacing that makes it easier for guys who can't shoot but are good at driving to the basket to be more effective. And part of the reason Russell Westbrook's not effective is because there's always at least 3 other people in the paint.
No, that's not why. Part of the reason why Russell Westbrook is ineffective is because Russell Westbrook makes bad decisions. Russell Westbrook is a stat pattern.
Look at our chat. Our chat is so smart.
Yeah,
Bucks ain't lying.
It's
Bucks
formulaic. It's very formulaic.
Numbers lie.
It's very
Jesus,
formulaic.
Brian.
When you run out of ammo, you go to the chat and look for allies.
I just know we have a really intelligent viewer base.
They can pull up the stats, so you can go look for the Nelsonites if you want. But I'm talking about the numbers. You can find the Nelsonites if you want, but I'm talking about the numbers. The Nelsonites don't know no more than you do, because they only know what you teach them.
I mean, you can insult our people all you want, but I know
they only know what you teach.
I know Oklahoma City would love to be bringing Ilyasova, George Hill, and Mirotic off the bench right now. Oh my God, if they had that, we'd be having a completely different conversation.
You know, we'd be having a completely different conversation if Russell Westbrook was playing the shooting guard, which he won't play because he intimidates his head coach into not making him play it, which is another reason why he's overrated.
Well, again, if Oklahoma City ever gets a 2-guard, let me know, because they haven't had a 2-guard since they drafted
Oklahoma City ever gets a point guard and convinces Russell Westbrook to give the ball up, let me know. Because he's not.
I mean, that's a generic statement. When you're 2-guard, here's the thing: you can get a guy, call him a point guard. If he can hit the 3, he helps space the floor. You can get a guy, call him a shooting guard. If he could hit the 3, he can space the floor. Right now, Oklahoma has guys that don't take more than a couple threes a game and don't make a large amount of threes. They need a knockdown shooter who could play some defense at the guard position with Russell Westbrook. Is that person going to handle the ball? Like, is the problem that Russell Westbrook can't bring the ball up the floor? Is the problem that he can't run pick and roll? Is the problem that he doesn't give the ball up and let Paul George do his thing? No. So the shooting guard thing is completely irrelevant. It's about who you get to spread the floor for OKC. OKC is the only playoff team that is dedicated to not hitting no threes, and they need to change it.
It's a skill versus will thing. It's not. Russell Westbrook is one of the most physically talented players I've ever seen. So it has nothing to do with skill or ability. It's about will. It's a skill versus will thing. Everybody on their job has a certain part of the thing, a certain part of their responsibilities that they are responsible for. If they fail at any portion of those responsibilities, you ask yourself, is this a skill issue? Is it something that they just cannot do? Or is it something that they're not willing to do? Russell Westbrook's not willing to run the point guard in a way that is best suited for winning. He's not.
And this is where your argument becomes real sad, because
you know where it becomes reality. He don't have no championships, and he's had the talent, and he's played with the players. That's where it becomes real.
How many point guards in the top 5 have championships?
Steph. Mm-hmm. Steph has a championship. Kyrie has a championship.
Mm-hmm. And that's it. So apparently everybody garbage except Steph and Kyrie, if that's your criteria.
That's not true, because all of them haven't played with the same talent that Russell Westbrook has played. And I'm not even saying that this team should have won the championship, but this team,
Russell Westbrook has never played on a team favored to win the championship. He has never played on a team with the most talent in the NBA.
They should not have been losing in 5 games. They should not have been losing.
Again, with Paul George being hurt, they gave up. Here's the thing: Dame beat them on a game winner in Game 5, a half-court game winner. Great shot to him, but a half-court step back to win the game, and the fact that you basically didn't have Paul George for Game 1 because he shot horribly, and you are down Abrines and down Robertson. It's not like I didn't say this stuff before the series started. That was my prediction for the series, that if Paul George isn't magically better, they're going to have some serious problems. And you said, I think Paul George is fine. And I'm like, not if you watch the games. He ain't looked like Paul George since the All-Star break. And lo and behold, he came out, told everybody, I haven't been able to lift my arms for 4 days, so I ain't shoot the ball until I got here.
He looked good.
OKC is too shallow offensively to not have Paul George healthy and beat anybody in the West.
This team should not have lost in 5. That's all I said. Should not have lost in 5. And Russell Westbrook is an overrated player. I'm not saying he's not a good player. He is, but he is not that top tier point guard that makes his team that much better.
And my thing has, and I'm not changing my argument.
You say let you finish. You say
okay, no, you have more. You sound like you're repeating yourself.
No. Just because you don't listen. That's the problem. You'll get better at that. But listen, this is the thing.
Promise I won't.
Russell Westbrook is the issue with Russell Westbrook is that he is not he's a trap player. He's a trap player. He's the type of player that is so dynamic. He is so athletic. He is so spectacular that it is easy to get fooled into thinking that, man, this is a guy I can build around. But the fact of the matter is the way that he plays, the way he approaches things, the way he operates, period, is not a way that makes guys better. Who that Russell Westbrook is playing with or has played with is better because they played with
Paul George had the best stretch of his career this year.
Paul
George. He had the best stretch of his career until he got hurt.
Paul George was a freak of nature before that.
He was never a top 3 MVP candidate before this year. Dude. And here's the thing, we discussed this on the show, and you didn't even argue the point. Russell Westbrook was spoon feeding him a lot of those situations. He was occupying the best defender a lot of those situations. But here's the thing, I don't want to get into that. The main thing with OKC, my argument has been the same since Kevin Durant was there. Get shooters, Sam Presti. Get shooters on this team, as my man Jay Battle said in the chat. You can't win in this league without shooting. OKC is one of the worst shooting teams in the league from the three-pointer. They have guys that literally will go a game and just cannot hit. They have no depth at the shooting. They have no knockdown shooters outside of Paul George. He's the only person you can expect to get you over 40% shooting. They need real shooters who can also defend. Until they get
And
that,
I'm not
I
saying
do
that
not
they don't.
expect
I'm not saying that
success
they
out
don't.
of OKC.
I'm not saying that they don't need shooters. I've never said that. My statement was that Russell Westbrook's overrated. It has nothing that I'm not evaluating their entire team. That's not even the argument. The argument is that he's overrated. I don't think that anybody can dispute that. I don't think anybody can dispute
I
that.
just
People can
proved you
tell
wrong in front of
you didn't
all
prove
of our
me wrong.
people.
But what? Because Jason Battle has posted 19 times.
Look, man, I appreciate the intelligence and wisdom of our community. I'm glad that between me and them, there's some basketball people in here who know what they're talking about.
Is he the jury?
You know, I got so many smart people in the chat. It's awesome.
I missed that. All I see.
I love the fact that we have a hardcore, intelligent basketball community that's willing to put up with what you say just to hear it proven wrong. But at the end of the day, right now, no one has Russ rated above, you know, Kyrie and Dame and Steph and James Harden, and some people would say CP3. So he's not overrated because everybody's killing him, and they've been killing him.
Nah.
Like he's the most killed player in the league for a while now.
Nah, I like I said,
you put D'Angelo Russell against up ahead of him, and D'Angelo Russell so far not a great playoff series. He played a little D in the playoffs, but don't play no D throughout the year. I love D'Angelo Russell, but he's not better than Russell Westbrook right now. You put Russell Westbrook on the Nets, they'd probably beat Philly.
I take Russell Westbrook. I take D'Angelo Russell over Russell Westbrook every day of the week.
Going forward, we'll see. I mean, I love D'Lo, but right now, I definitely wouldn't put him above Russell.
Yeah,
I do love D'Lo. So.
My man Tay Shakir says, "Man, Westbrook isn't what people think he is."
But do you know what that means? I mean, what's he saying? Is he talking about you, people who hating on him, that say he's the most selfish guy ever?
I don't know.
He's a cancer that can't make his teammates better, despite evidence to the contrary?
I don't know. I don't know what he's saying, but I know what I'm saying.
Well, I'm saying we got more topics to go to. What we got?
Yeah, we do, but he's still overrated.